Afternoon, everyone. I'm Audrey, Director of Operation at Island Innovation. Welcome, everyone. We are here today at the occasion of the Island Space at COP26, hosted by Island Innovation. As you may know, COP is happening now in Glasgow. And this year, one of the main themes is access to capital. So how do we include islands and the Caribbean in this conversation? What are those solutions available and implemented today to get access to capital for this region? We are very happy to be today to have this conversation about this great initiative to speed up the access to capital in the Caribbean region and standardize the process. And it's the Resilience Scorecard developed by the IRAC Task Force. To discuss this today, we are honored and very happy to have with us today the Honorable Walter Roban, Deputy Premier and Minister of Home Affairs at the Government of Bermuda, who is actually live from Glasgow today. Rick Warner, Chair at Coastal 8, and Kimberly Lewis, Program Manager at the Energy Efficiency at Con Edison. What we have been witnessing is that the most urgent obstacle to greater energy resiliency for islands is the lack of clear visions for resiliency in each country. That's why has been developed this Resilience Scorecard, inclusive at least for at least one island Caribbean profile. So Kimberly, can you tell us more about what is the IRAC Task Force, please?
Sure. Hi, good morning. Thank you, first of all, for allowing us to be here. I'm so excited to share some of the good work that we are doing. So I'm going to give a little background of how this task force started and what challenge allowed us to get to the point of defining that critical issue and how we came to the solution. So IRAC stands for Island Resilience Action Challenge, and that is a year-round initiative really focused on determining actionable solutions for equity, resilience, and decarbonization issues in the region, but not only determining solutions, actually acting on them through a team of committed volunteers. The Island Resilience Action Challenge is held at CREF, the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum, so a very well-attended forum for key energy leaders in the Caribbean. The Action Challenge has about 100 of those high-profile energy leaders, which really represents such a wide cross-section of industries and thought leadership. So how the challenge works is these energy leaders come into a room to determine what is the most critical problem at this time facing the region with respect to, as I mentioned, resilience, equity, and decarbonization. So at the 2020 Island Resilience Action Challenge, Jeannie Nicolai, who is the Director of Energy for the Government of Bermuda, she put forth a problem statement that really struck a nerve for everyone in the room. There is a lack of a clear vision for resilience in the community, in each community, so each Caribbean territory. So as that problem statement was identified, the team of leaders now had to come up with a solution and a 12-month action plan for that specific problem. And that solution was the Resilience Scorecard, which a group of very committed and outstanding volunteers have come together to bring to life. The idea behind the scorecard is that we really wanted something that each Caribbean island can use to really set baselines for their goals, evaluate resilience barriers, bring alignment to certain planning initiatives, and really demonstrate leadership and laser in and focus on what the issues, how can these issues be addressed? So through the development of a scorecard, we wanted to be able to lay everything out on the table for these island nations to say, we really need investment in these areas. We know what it's going to take and we have a plan. So that was a really huge driving force behind what we were doing, finding that securing that financing just in line with the theme at COP, as you have mentioned. So to give a little background on this task force, we have representation from a host of outstanding organizations, the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, the Environmental Defense Fund, Rocky Mountain Institute, a host of local to the region organizations like the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, the Caribbean Development Bank. We have a lot of third-party partners, knowledge partners, and funding partners as well. We have Coastal 8, which Rick represents, Run With It Synthetics, Alavance. We have such a strong team, but we also realized it was absolutely critical to get engagement from ministers in different countries very early on in the process. So we have held a ministerial panel. We also had a mid-year checkpoint where we sought the advice of the people who would be using these scorecards. So island nations, how can we best format the scorecard? How can we develop and build it so that it helps you rather than hurts you? What would you like to see? And through some really fantastic engagement with the ministers, this kind of just really took off. The goal was to have one island nation use the scorecard within 12 months. Right now, we have 5 countries who are dedicated and committed and have gone through a phase 1 of the scorecard. We have Grenada, Dominica, Cayman, Bermuda, and Barbados, all in the phase 1 of the scorecard. And, we've just had such great input from the ministers, all the way through. And we really hope to take that to the next level so that other Caribbean islands can use the scorecard and really demonstrate their leadership and have investment focused on the region. That is what we're here for. That's what we're calling for. And we want to bring attention to our region and the work that we are putting in to get us to a more resilient place.
That sounds fantastic and such an amazing work. It must have been quite a journey so far.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. We've had weekly meetings for the last year. We put in a lot of work, and it shows. I'm so proud of everyone on the task force and really thankful specifically to our partners and the ministers who have been able to uplift our efforts and get us to this point.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting because we know how the Caribbean is so diverse.
Yes.
Each island has their own specificities, their own goals. So how can we develop a scorecard that can fit all islands, and also standardize the criteria? Can maybe Rick can tell us a bit more on the different aspects in details or about the scorecard itself?
Yeah, certainly. I'd love to chime in on that. It was interesting when the task force started. Well, let me back up first and again pile on Kimberly's statement about thank you to the ministers and each of the island nations for coming together in a holistic approach. Their input was absolutely critical. And this does come back to not just building a scorecard that is a document that we all put on the shelf and say, hey, great, we got it done. But we've actually built a tool that actually can be used over time. And if you think about all the discussions you're having there at COP right now, the question becomes, how can we really on each individual island and as a region and as a world line up programs and allocate our resources? That could be capital, know-how, local or global capabilities, and bring them into a holistic approach to really build resilience and make it, the word I like to use during the discussions with the team is, holistically and abundant, so that we're building beyond just surviving impacts from hurricanes, or whatever the problems are that are symptoms of climate change. How do we address the real, a giant elephant in the room of getting to a world that's 1.5 C, So with that, what we did is we got together and we said, well, how do we define resilience? And remember, this came from CREF, right? The challenge was energy, and it's coming from deploying renewable energy. But the whole group came together in wonderful discussions around the use of energy and how do we, maybe to the nationally determined commitments, bring together private and public partnerships to set true and line up activities with the strategic goals of the island. So the scorecard at a specific level first starts with each of the islands had to step back and say, yes, we do want to have a resilient island that is independent, capable, powerful in its own right as a mission statement. And there's specific words to that for each island nation, right? So underneath that, you had to come up with strategic objectives or strategic goals and then objectives. And so the conversation then with both the island nations and all the private and NGO organizations in this group said, look, clearly the SDGs have value. So how can each island have their SDG plans and goals and then have the objectives, which might manifest in the form of, hey, we want to move from 10% renewable energy to 100% by year 2050, whatever that may be per nation. But there is a common set of goals that even move into biodiversity, for example, or on an island nation, how can we move our food production or food that we actually use on the island from 10% local and 90% imported to 90% local and 10% imported. So looking at biomass, and we broadened the whole definition to looking at all the systems and how they integrate to really create that powerful scorecard. And then once this tool is in place, and we talk about this a little bit more, there's going to be a continuation to this task. So hope that explained the scorecards a little bit.
Yes, definitely. It makes sense to talk about all those different areas of criteria. And you also mentioned, the goals that has been probably shared with the different islands you spoke to. Have you seen common goals or what, always curious on the specificities, the things in common, and also the difference between those islands. How did you deal with this when you work with them?
Yeah, great question, actually. And there is the old 80-20 rule. There's commonality at a human level, and a community level. How to create job opportunities as a result out of this. How do we improve equity? How do we improve healthcare? All of the things that Minister Roban and the rest of his leadership and the other islands are working on daily. And so in these conversations, the tool allows them to actually say, look, right now, this is our priority. We really have to focus on renewable energy, or we have to focus on electrification of vehicles on the island, for example, whatever those components are that all relate back to those SDGs. And I think everybody started to understand, if we start to talk in that language, it will allow us to pull the financial community from the world into the goals and objectives we're all after, so that we can, and then the tool will then allow each island nation to customize it for their needs. But there's an overlap, and that's where maybe regional activities can come together, where maybe there can be other collaboration, like with Raquel Moses's organization, and how can we do that at a regional and then global level, and maybe even lead the world forward. And this is how you can run your communities in a really abundant, resilient way. So there were a lot of discussions along those lines, what categories go in there. But the key is each island nation gets to pick their strategic objectives and their measurables. And yes, they compare, but they aren't meant to compare island to island. It's not a football game we call in the States or in Europe, but it's, everybody wins by coming together.
That sounds amazing. And well, I'm curious about Minister Roban, how, speaking of this scorecard, why this work of the IREC task force in developing a resilience scorecard is important for Bermuda?
Thank you for the question. Bermuda is always looking for ways that we can enhance our response to the issues of climate change, enhance our own resilience as an island that is exposed to the obvious front line of issues of climate and environment protection. And how do we can find ways to ensure that the quality of life of our citizens and of our natural environment is preserved. So the scorecard seemed to be a good tool amongst other tools, to assess where we are as a jurisdiction, and also give us some perhaps indications of where we have gaps as a jurisdiction. And once you understand what those are, your strengths and your weaknesses, and the gaps you can attend to, the scorecard can assist as a tool to planning out how you address those over time. And so I think islands like us can use tools like the scorecard to sort of assess where we are and set goals, and then make a plan to reach those goals. So the scorecard seemed like a good tool and an effort to perhaps embed some self-examination and reflection on where we are and plan how we might improve our situation ahead, where we need to improve.
That makes sense. And if you can maybe detail, you have been able to witness some gaps. How did you manage to, with working with the scorecard, well, perspective, well, to change and adapt maybe your actions? What were those gaps, and how do you project on implementing maybe different actions from those gaps you've seen? If you can talk about those gaps, of course.
Well, I don't mind talking about the gaps because our gaps may be no different from anybody else's. It's not so much anything that we can't be transparent about. I mean, also, this is also about transparency as well. How can we improve with the support of a wider constituency if you're not transparent about your issues? So, and I think that our gaps are no different than most. There are issues of infrastructure. There's issue of clear patterns of consumption and demand that are contributing to our own perhaps situation as a jurisdiction when it comes to the usage of energy, the perhaps waste of food, and improving our food security. And these are gaps that we have. We, like many islands in the region, import the majority of our food. How can we improve that situation? We are right now reliant heavily on fossil fuels, but also have perhaps a high demand level. How do we address that? Those are gaps. Those are gaps. Those are areas that we have to improve on. But we're no different from any other island. So the scorecard will help us to understand what those are. And like many other islands, I don't think we're that much different. Perhaps we're just prepared to be a little bit more transparent than others at this point. Because the cost of not responding to these issues is high, and is a question of how do you preserve our future as a jurisdiction with limited government revenues because of expenditures in areas such as responding to disasters or the pandemic expenditure, and as well as the economic recovery investment that has to happen. You know, resources have to be planned out, and how you're going to address gaps has to be planned out as well.
Well, thank you for answering this. And over the next 12 months, what type of collaboration do you need most to achieve Bermuda's priorities regarding resilience and adaptation?
I would say over the next 12 months, when it comes to adaptation, we are, as a country, looking for investment, like many others, reasonable levels of investment that can help us to make the transition from, and begin the transition from a country dependent on fossil fuels to being a country that ultimately by 2030 to 2035 will have the majority of our energy generated by renewables. We are a country looking to improve agriculture and our food security by adopting not just better efficiencies at traditional agriculture, but also adopting the more modern methods such as like hydroponics, aquaponics, vertical farming, and others that can help you get the highest productivity in a small amount of space. We're on a big island, So we don't have tracts of land to dedicate to farming, but using modern methods that use minimal land use, which I think everybody's looking to have a less exploitative process of land going to the future, as we try and I guess reverse the desertification and enhance biodiversity by replanting trees and returning ecospheres back to their natural state and increasing the green in our environment. That doesn't mean more green agriculture. That means actually using space wisely for agriculture. So these are things that we are going to be concentrating on over the next 12 months, is laying out how we're going to deal with these, as well as obviously ensuring that we preserve the integrity of our marine environment, our biodiversity, and also improve the health of our people. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we are looking to improve the using nature-based solutions and technology, and that is not imposing on the natural environment, to improve the health of our marine environment, our land space, but also the human condition.
Minister Roban, I think we lost Audrey. Kimberly, you said you wanted to add something?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm happy to hear somebody else now. I'm a
Thank you.
politician. I can talk all day.
Well, Minister Roban, I actually wanted to go back to a statement that you previously said on one of our ministerial panels that actually completely shifted the way that we were looking at the scorecard. You brought to light that the development of a scorecard needs to be done in such a way that it will not disadvantage any nation or territory from using it, and that no nation would be disadvantaged by the existence of a scorecard. So that message really helped change our ethos, that the scorecard is not meant to be about competition, it's meant to be about collaboration, because every single nation has different goals, and they should really be able to tailor a scorecard based on their resilience profile. So it's not about a score of an A or a B score, it's about where is each territory charting along progress to their specific goals. And it's been completely beneficial to have each island who has participated, as I said, we have 5 of them right now, take the time to really focus in on what are those hurdles to resilience at this point, where are the weaknesses and where are those gaps. And through each island going through that process, that's when we're able to discover, what is overlapping. Are there any opportunities for investment at scale? Can we do umbrella projects? Can we create investment schemes? So I just want to really highlight the collaboration that the scorecard is bringing. And, there's no sense of competition at all. You are not competing with another island nation by participating in the scorecard. You are only charting along to your own goals.
Excellent point, Kimberly. Welcome back, Audrey, if she can hear us. So on Kimberly, on that point, I'd like to take a minute and pivot a little bit about next steps. One of the beauties of this tool, due to the collaboration at the private public level, is that we're going to be in a place where two of the private companies have put in catalytic contributions. So Olivance, also the tool that Myrna is bringing forward with Run With It Technologies, and then also what Coastal 8's going to do. We're going to spend, Dominica has agreed to be the living lab island and continue their progress on taking the tool to the next level, where it gets into the details of budgeting and the hard trade-offs that have to be made by the ministers. And so with that process, and again, to Minister Roban's statement about transparency, they've agreed that all of the other islands that have been on the task force can go through this process with them, so they can actually see, where some of those challenges are, and then what the actionable choices are that they can make. And as again, Mr. Roban said, over time. So it will allow us in the next 3, 6, 12 months to actually take the tool into a deployment mode at one of the islands. And Dominica has agreed to take the lead there with Francine and Creed and their organization. It's an interesting opportunity for all of the islands, I think, because that island was hammered so hard by the hurricane. And, you know, they've committed to that rebuild, you know, so part of resiliency is the ability to rebound and have the resources and capability to endure that. But it's not it. It's really when you're doing that, how do you build that coastal community from a system standpoint to really be very resilient over time, especially with what we know is going to happen with the climate from the IPCC report. So it's a very interesting opportunity that's going to take place over the next 3 to 6 months that, you know, we look forward to having more people reach through, you know, Kimberly's organization to get into the task force and continue to join and collaborate with us.
Mm-hmm. So yes, and that's why I was wondering now, Kim, how do we reach out to you? Tell us who should reach out to you by the way.
So if I haven't mentioned it before, the Island Resilience Action Challenge is co-hosted by Advanced Energy Group, which is a stakeholder engagement platform. So they do this across major cities in the US, as well as some independent countries, and then the Caribbean region as a whole at CREF in partnership with New Energy Events. So this mission is so near and dear to our hearts that we are constantly looking for partners. We've had such a great team, and like I said, we've had funding and knowledge partners. We've had private organizations invest time and money towards this cause. So we are looking to get it to the next level, as Rick was stating. I can share my email address, Kimberly@goadvancedenergy.com. Please reach out to me so that we can, you know, have even more members on board to take us to the next level. That's how you can contact me.
Wonderful. Any, I think we covered pretty everything. Thank you so much. Any final word from you, Minister, or Rick, about, you know, for the audience? Any final word? Let's start with you, Minister.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate. We are honored to be a part of the Resilient Action Challenge Bermuda, because we know that as an island, we don't have all the answers. And we believe that cooperation with others, particularly with this being a global issue, for many states, you know, smaller states have their own challenges that are unique. And I always find it problematic when some of our own people and other people outside compare us to larger jurisdictions on a variety of measurements, which is really not fair and it's not accurate. But we must also address, and this is where we can have cooperation, is the compilation of accurate data in all key areas so that we can share a common experience and common information. And if there's data that integrity is sort of assured, then we can learn from each other's experiences and advance together with the challenges and opportunities that we have. So I believe that this effort with the scorecard is just another tool to reach those sort of goals, is to advance transparency, as I said earlier, but also working together to use the knowledge and experience and understanding of the scorecard and tools like that to advance us as islands together with the challenge of environment protection, the challenge of climate, with the challenge of building resilience, which is going to require, as COP is trying to bring forth issues of adaptation, of resilience, of finance, and all the other issues that are important for us as islands and the world to address as we face this challenge ahead for the next 20, 30 years.
Thank you so much. And well, that made me just jump on one more question, I guess would be interesting. It is Rick or Kim about the transparency that the minister just talked about. Who will have access to this scorecard and how?
So we are working through with each nation once they get to a comfortable point, what information can be shared and at what point and with whom. But currently with such a tight-knit group and such close engagement, transparency has been great throughout the group between the countries that are involved right now. But the messaging is at some point we want to put it out there. We just have to wait for the appropriate time. Once data is collected, once goals have been solidified, once we are able to continue tracking progress, that is absolutely the idea. And we're doing this for a bigger cause. It's bringing me back to what Minister Simon Steele, he holds the portfolio for climate resilience and environment in Grenada, when with a lot of his engagement, and he's a true champion for this scorecard as well, he said, we really need to speak in the language in which the global community can hear us. This is what we are doing this work for, to show up for ourselves and to show up on a global platform. Of course, we can only do that with the utmost transparency and putting all this hard work out on the open stage to say we are here. We want to be here for a long time, and we need your help to get there. So it's all in line with the idea of transparency.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for this clarity. Rick, would you like to have a final word for the audience for us today?
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity and both perspectives there. We have to move fast, and we have to start to move from concept and designing and planning into action. And the private, and this is a reach out to Kimberly through her contact, any private sector organizations, financial community, we need their engagement at a large level to really make an impact towards really abundant and resilient coastal communities. And so Coastal Aid as a system, resiliency systems integrator, we like to partner with island nations that have these goals and help them build that and move it faster and make sure it is designed for their use and can continue it for generations to come. So the shout out there is, what this tool is going to do is make it transparent and clear to what the needs are in a language, as Kimberly was saying, to the rest of the world. So, and the Caribbean islands are on the front line of the impact. So to that point, as a private sector individual, knowing and having great deal of experience with all the gray hair with private-public partnerships, that we can make it happen. It can actually happen when we have the right common language. So to that end, that's my point. So, and I appreciate Roban, Minister Roban, taking the time and collaborating with us over this whole project. So.
Well, thank you everyone for this great conversation. We were really happy to have you today. And of course, we are supporting you 100% on this initiative. Yes, for the audience, feel free. And yes, this is the right time. This is now. We would be very happy if you have any questions to reach out to Kim or Rick, or even someone at Island Innovation if you'd like to contact anyone from the scorecard team. Thank you so much. Enjoy COP26. Make the right choices for islands, and we'll hope to see you very soon for another great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Minister Roban. Kimberly.
Thank you, Audrey. Thanks, Rick.